With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories. Young voices shine bright in 2025 Creative Youth Competition focused on essay writing.
Dr. Keith Rowley emphasizes the strengthened preparedness to volcanoes and other natural disasters, highlighting Nevis's volcanic risk.
Building a resilient future for water in St. Kitts and Nevis, the St. Kitts Nevis Trans Water Project. Hotels across Antigua and Barbuda are on high alert for any eventuality this hurricane season. St. Lucia joins Venezuela in celebrating 214 years of independence. Internationally, former colonial ruler France hands over its last military bases to Senegal. Now, the details. This year, the Creative Youth Competition was all about the power of the pen with a focus on essay writing. Young people across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU, embraced 3 thought-provoking essay topics competing in 2 age categories, and their contributions did not disappoint. On the July 16th, 2025 episode of ECCB Connects, the winners of the 2 age categories were introduced. Aidan Corbett of the Montserrat Secondary School emerged the winner in the 13 to 16 category, while Endira Reeknote of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College in St. Christopher and Nevis took the top spot in the 17 to 19 category. The 2 winners spoke candidly about what inspired their essays and their participation in the competition. Shanna Derrick, Communications Officer at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB, explained the competition's purpose.
The ECCB RSS ARU Creative Youth Competition is part of the bank's outreach program. It is aimed at encouraging critical and innovative thinking, as well as raising the awareness of secondary school and college students in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union on issues of economic and social development. It includes various genres of writing, composition, and creative expression, such as essay writing, poetry, songwriting, and visual art. This year, the competition focused on essay writing and required students to pen essays on one of 3 topics. 1. Financial education should be a mandatory subject in all primary and secondary schools. 2. Following the success of Eastern Caribbean athletes at the 2024 Summer Olympic in Paris, sports should be leveraged as a means to help deter criminal activity, drive economic growth, and enhance national pride among the youth. And 3, how can the OECS reform its education system to foster creativity across all disciplines?
Expressing his surprise and joy at winning, Corbett shared,
I didn't think I was going to win because of all the different countries. So I screamed. I was like, yes, I did it. I did it. I did it. And now I just feel like any competition that I go into that has something to do with essay writing, that I feel like I can place, because guess what? I did it in this big stage. My topic was basically about how the success of the athletes from the ECCB countries, how they would have accomplished a lot in the Paris Olympics, and that stuck out to me because I myself am an athlete. As I said earlier, I like track and field. So it was really easy for me to write on, and I basically tried to instill the fact that sports is a big part in the Caribbean. It takes us far, it takes us to many places, and I think that the government and the country should, really pay attention to that aspect in the country.
In the older category, Rick Note also shared the motivation behind her winning essay.
The essay that I chose to write on is the if financial education should be mandatory in primary and secondary schools. I did agree that it should be mandatory. My main points were mostly discussing stuff such as consumerism, overconsumption, the lack of budgeting in the current day, and just how people really don't manage their finances properly, which is becoming a very big problem. I felt very shocked that I won. I'm an aspiring writer, so being able to win in these competitions just affirms my writing ability, and it really encourages me to venture into my future endeavors as a writer.
The reflections from the judging panel and one of the key partners in the competition further highlighted the significance of the event. Representing the judges, Robin Joseph Nathaniel of Antigua and Barbuda noted,
I think for me and for the other judges, I think the depth of thought and analysis, especially for their age range, stood out a lot. That you could tell that they thought about it. You could tell that they were interested in sharing their viewpoints, not just statistical evidence to prove whatever they were saying. And so that probably was a standout for a lot of us as judges.
Deborah Whittington, Program Administrator from the Regional Security Systems Asset Recovery Unit, whose organization co-sponsored the competition with the ECCB, explained the synergy between their mandate and the competition's objectives.
These days, it seems that our youth are all in the news for all of the wrong reasons, and increasingly they are being viewed in a very negative light. We think, therefore, that these programs help to place a positive spotlight on the region's youth and empower them. This then increases their confidence and their self-esteem. It helps them to recognize their capabilities, it motivates them, and it could be instrumental in steering them away from activities which are detrimental to themselves and their communities. So the more that we give an outlet to the untapped talents of the youth and encourage healthy competition, the more we contribute to their growth and positive development.
In recognition of their achievement, the winners of the 2025 Creative Youth Competition, along with their schools and mentor teachers, will receive monetary prizes totaling $13,000, underscoring the region's commitment to nurturing young talent across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union.
Former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, made a presentation at the 30th anniversary panel discussion of Montserrat's Soufriere Hills volcano eruption on ZJB Radio. Reflecting on his role as a scientist during the initial stages of the crisis, Rowley lauded the leadership of the then governor and the chief minister of Montserrat, praising their ability to interpret and act on scientific advice under pressure. He noted that their swift and thoughtful implementation of management measures played a significant role in safeguarding Montserrat's population during a period of intense uncertainty and danger.
And had the volcano erupted a few hours later, the outcome would have been hugely more disastrous. That is the kind of thing that goes on during eruptions. And Montserrat came very close to having a far worse outcome, even though we have an outcome that we can look at and say we made the best of what was available. And the people who took the decisions ought to be given some credit for allowing decision-making to be shared or to be fashioned by that relationship between the Prime Minister and the Governor. I don't know that that is common or that would be available in other eruptions.
However, Dr. Rowley explained that the Montserrat volcano experience offers vital lessons that other small island developing states, such as St. Kitts and Nevis, should heed, especially considering their vulnerabilities to natural disasters.
And I hope to mention a little bit about the lessons that should be learned that Montserrat would have taught to the region, which are not being learned. Because I can tell you right now, there are other potential disasters within this region for which we are hopelessly unprepared, because we believe that the volcanoes either would give us enough notice or worse, it's not going to happen on my watch.
According to Rowley, the island of Nevis ranked number 1 of the top 3 islands for volcanic risk based on a 1970s study. Nevis Peak, a potentially active stratovolcano, stands 3,232 feet above sea level. While there is no immediate threat, authorities continue to monitor Nevis Peak as part of regional volcanic surveillance.
When we did the latest assessment in the 70s, there were 3 areas that we thought were 1, 2, 3 in the volcanoes that are likely to erupt, other than St. Vincent and Montpellier, which had erupted in the not too distant past. And we felt that on my list, number 1 was Nevis, number 2 was Montserrat, and number 3 was Dominica. And we worked with that understanding that these are the areas
where we have to pay particular attention, because not only are the possibilities great because of what we understood from the science, but on those islands, especially Montserrat, where we had Plymouth, Dominica, where we had capital city Roseau, and in Nevis, where there's virtually no place to withdraw from the volcano. You're virtually living on the volcano. And Montserrat beat Nevis in the stakes. Montserrat erupted before, so we were close, but not entirely accurate in our guesstimating.
Dr. Rowley, who has maintained a deep interest in disaster preparedness and science-driven governance, underscored the value of continued investment in scientific research, public education, and regional cooperation by highlighting examples of volcano disasters in the region.
In 1902, on the French island of Martinique, a volcano, Mont Pelée, erupted after giving tremendous, what we now see as notice, but people didn't understand what was happening. So nobody did what had to be done, which was to get out of the way. And the volcano eventually erupted and killed thousands of people, wiped out the whole city of Saint-Pierre. Only 2 people survived in that city. I think there's 29,000 people were killed. That remained a world phenomenon here in Martinique. And later on, a few days later, the one in St. Vincent erupted and killed 2,000 people. Again, there was notice. But because we didn't understand the phenomenon, the notice was ignored because the danger was not sufficiently understood.
Rowley believes that the legacy of Montserrat's volcanic crisis and other similar occurrences should not only be remembered, but actively used to strengthen future disaster responses across the globe.
In the continuing quest to secure a reliable and sustainable water supply for the Federation, the Water Services Department has intensified efforts under the banner of the St. Kitts Nevis Trans Water Project. During the latest In Focus episode on July 16, 2025, Cromwell Williams, water engineer, and Landrith Isaac, assistant water engineer, shared critical insights into this transformative initiative aimed at modernizing the nation's water infrastructure and management. Cromwell Williams clarified some public misconceptions surrounding desalination technology.
It's no different really from what companies do in terms of preparing the bottled water. It's the same process. They're using reverse osmosis. So they're taking our water and they're running it through filters, through pressurized filters, reverse osmosis, and they take out whatever minerals are in the water. But of course, we believe that water naturally, as God gives us, should have some minerals in it, some of the calcium, the sodium, and so on. Those are naturally occurring in the environment. So, that's quite in order. And of course, you always have World Health Organization or US EPA provide guidelines as to what are the safe limits for those naturally occurring minerals, right? So I just wanted to make the point that there should be absolutely no mistrust of desalinated water, because that is what you're buying in the bottle, actually. It's the same thing.
Isaac expounded on the project's broader goals, describing the SKN Trans Water Project as
transitioning the water supply in St. Kitts and Nevis to a climate-resilient, low-carbon water sector.
He remarked on the collaboration with the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center 5Cs and the pursuit of funding from the Green Climate Fund, GCF, aiming for approximately US $40 to $42 million to propel this multi-stage development forward. Currently, the project is in the facility stage, focusing on
feasibility studies, social and economic assessments, and providing developing project indicators that will ensure a technically and financially strong project proposal,
with hopes of full approval by 2026. When asked about the modernization elements, Isaac highlighted infrastructure improvements, including upgraded storage tanks, transitioning piping materials from PVC to more durable HDPE, and adopting innovative technologies such as smart metering and SCADA systems that allow for remote monitoring and control.
A lot of the stuff that we do right now are very manual. And so we're just trying to see how we could modernize and improve our infrastructure in that regard.
Underscoring the necessity of integrating advanced technologies for greater operational efficiency. Cromwell Williams detailed the manifold benefits these technological advancements would bring, emphasizing enhanced resilience to climate change. He explained that desalination remains a cornerstone of the project, enabling the nation to mitigate the impacts of fluctuating rainfall.
I mean, regardless of in any particular year what rainfall we get, we would always have an almost unlimited supply of raw water in terms of the seawater. So that is building resilience. So the technology, yes, is important. We want to ensure that we maximize our use of technology, and that will, as you said, result in efficiency and reliability.
Highlighting the current system's reliance on manual pump operations and tank monitoring, Williams pointed out the risks of human error, often leading to avoidable water shortages. The transition to automated controls, he noted, would reduce personnel exposure to hazardous conditions, improve safety, and optimize resource management, allowing system operators to monitor tank levels and pump status remotely. The conversation also touched on the critical work of replacing aging water infrastructure. Williams noted challenges with the Southeast Peninsula Pipeline, which, despite being only over 30 years old, has experienced accelerated deterioration due to soil conditions, resulting in frequent breaks and costly road closures. He stressed the importance of replacing such pipelines to reduce maintenance burdens and public inconvenience, a step echoed as vital to the overall water supply resilience. Public engagement remains a key component of the Transwater project. Isaac detailed a series of consultations held in June.
We held public meetings every day that week. We started at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, and then the team went to Nevis to address their challenges there. We also went to Sadler's, St. Paul's, and at the McKnight Community Center. Although there were relatively small turnouts physically, they were also aired live. So we did have some good turnout on the live areas. But most persons were just really concerned about, when will they see an improvement in water supply? And the same thing, like you just trying to get enlightened on what the Transwater project does. So while we touched on a lot of the physical aspects with regards to infrastructure improvements, the Transwater project also addresses water policy, and so the legal framework surrounding how we manage our water resource. It also touches on non-revenue water, NRW, what we call NRW. So it addresses the leaks, and how we plan to improve in that regard as well. And so the public meetings are also socially sensitive. So they wanted to touch on how gender and water is interacted and what we're doing to address the vulnerable in that regard. So yeah, it's a very all-inclusive project and process, and so we're very heavily involved in a lot of data gathering as well. So yeah, the public meetings are really just to have that public engagement in the process of the decision-making of the whole process.
Emphasizing the comprehensive nature of the project and its inclusive planning approach. Addressing a perennial challenge, the communication of water conservation, Williams acknowledged the difficulty in changing public behavior.
There has never been the type of emphasis on water usage. It's always been about water production, water supply. We're not producing enough water. We need more water. But the fact is that probably almost half of the water that the Water Services Department provides is going to waste.
He noted lax enforcement of revenue collection has contributed to overconsumption, with households sometimes using multiples of their expected water allotment, often due to leaks or faulty plumbing. Williams stressed that managing water sustainably requires
holding users accountable for the water that passes through their meter.
Highlighting a cultural shift away from tolerance of excessive use. Reflecting on the history of water rates, the conversation underscored the need for rate adjustments in light of inflation and infrastructure investment costs. Williams advised that combating leakage is a less costly strategy than building expensive new supply plants, advocating for greater vigilance in addressing water loss before expanding production capacity. Isaac reminded listeners of water's fundamental role, from the glass of drinking water to the crops and businesses it sustains, calling for collective responsibility.
Water is a common thread that sustains our lives and livelihoods, and as Mr. Williams expressed, we're really looking to the support of the people to play their part in safeguarding this natural resource.
Williams urged a holistic approach to water management, emphasizing environmental stewardship beyond infrastructure.
The farmers, the way in which you utilize fertilizers and pesticides is very critical because our water is on the ground. Even persons, John Public, how you dispose of your waste is critical because our water source is on the ground.
The SKN Trans Water Project aims to deliver a modernized, climate-resilient water sector that ensures reliable, safe, and sustainable water access for generations to come. As the project moves through crucial feasibility and planning stages, its success depends not only on technological innovations and infrastructure investments, but also on fostering a culture of respect, conservation, and shared responsibility among all citizens. In regional news, hotels across Antigua and Barbuda are on high alert for any eventuality this hurricane season. ABS Antigua has that story.
The last major storm to wreak havoc here in this country is Hurricane Louis back in 1995. It crippled the country's tourism industry. An instrumental part of the tourism product is the hotel sector, which employs over 46% of the national workforce.
In this edition of Stay Alert, we explore how Hawksbill Antigua prepares for this and every hurricane season. The hotel consists of 106 rooms catering for some 212 guests. Now, while renovations are ongoing on the property, the renovations have nothing to do with the hurricane preparedness plan. That plan has been in place since May, and it governs the do's and don'ts of what the property does during the hurricane season.
According to the Antigua and Barbuda Hotels and Tourism Association, the body encourages all hotel properties to remain on high alert and to proactively review their preparedness plans, although many properties do have their own plan in place.
As early as May, we kick into high gear where we roll out our manuals. We have a manual that guides us. It will change yearly because things changes. We're able to get all stakeholders within the hotel
different but important checklists that need to be in place on the property.
Our manuals entails the do's and don'ts, important numbers, some statistics in terms of what would have happened before, what to look for, imminent threats of a storm.
A significant part of the hotel's manual is a measure to identify workers who are able to stay on the property through a major storm or hurricane.
We, at the start of the hurricane season, we do ask our staff who would like to volunteer to stay on property during the storm to assist us to look after the guests. Also, we reach out to our staff who think that their housing is not in any good condition to withstand the storm that is approaching or pending. And we take our staffing here very seriously.
In the event of a major storm hits, how quickly can Hawksbill recover? We asked Thomas. This was his response.
Hawksbill, as well as any other hotel, should be able to rebound nicely. Tourism is our product, and we are very careful in planning and mitigating what our manuals emphasizes. We're able to begin to do our checks and balances, starting with proper checks for guest count, making sure that we have the accommodations, advising the tour operators, which is very important, Virgin Holidays, British Airways, if they may have to bring flights in to get them out. But in any event that they're not able to make it out, we do have the strategic plans and resources to be able to take care of them for maybe up to 10 days.
While hurricanes may be inevitable for this part of the world, staying alert is paramount.
St. Lucia joins Venezuela in celebrating 214 years of independence. DBS St. Lucia reports.
St. Lucia's ambassador to Venezuela, Peter Lancico, reflected on a historic diplomatic move made under the Philip J. Pierre administration.
We decided for the first time to do something that should have been done many, many years ago that we had not done. And true to form, Honorable Philip J. Pierre made history when we decided for the first time to properly designate an ambassador of St. Lucia to Venezuela.
Lanzico celebrated the growing partnership and envisioned a bilingual future for St. Lucians.
We have a dream in St. Lucia that between now and the next 50 years, all our St. Lucia children should be speaking at least a second language, and that language is going to be Spanish.
He also shared a touching historical anecdote, recounting how a St. Lucian named Jean-Baptiste Bidot once saved the life of Venezuelan independence hero Simon Bolivar.
Jean-Baptiste Bidot was born in Derisomico. Many St. Lucians don't know that. And when Venezuela was fighting for its independence, that St. Lucian had the great honor of saving the life of General Simon Bolivar.
Venezuelan Ambassador Leif Escalona highlighted the educational ties between the nations, sharing that St. Lucian teachers are currently in Venezuela participating in specialized workshops.
We have 12 teachers from St. Lucia. They are in Venezuela receiving different workshops. We have 4 teachers from the special education in Venezuela. They travel on the 1st of July and they are coming back on the 12th of July, only 12 days. And we have 8 teachers from different primary and secondary schools with the curriculum officer of music.
The message of peace was echoed by Dr. Fortuna Anthony, Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, who urged young musicians to use their talents for healing and unity.
When you are ready to produce lyrics and songs, I would pray that you consider what it is that you are going to produce.
She encouraged them to use their gifts and talents to be of service to others through peaceful activities. She closed with a call for youth to be peace builders in a world she described as confusing and unstable. From diplomacy to education to the arts, St. Lucia and Venezuela continue to deepen their partnership, united by shared history and a commitment to peace. For the DBS News World, Manasseh Stanislas reporting.
We now bring you these international reports.
Between the port and the train station is the statue of Demba and Dupont, arm in arm holding an olive branch. One is Senegalese, the other is French. Together, they liberated France from German occupation during World War II. But guess which one wasn't allowed to march into Paris despite helping to liberate it? Now, with the last French military base being handed over to Senegal, it seems Dupont is walking away. Behind the barbed wired wall, a final salute. Down comes the French flag, up goes the Senegalese one. A small ceremony for a big moment, the end of French military presence here.
This change is necessary. We need to reinvent our partnerships in a dynamic Africa whose youth carry great hope. That requires a real transformation in how we engage with African countries and our African partners. We need to act differently. Permanent bases are no longer needed for that.
From here, the French launched colonial invasions, and after independence, the French troops stayed, and this became a hub for military cooperation. This base was the eyes and ears of France over the Eastern Atlantic. France still has soldiers in many of its former colonies, but for Senegal's new young president, who represents a new generation unburdened by colonial ties, he asked the French troops to leave, not out of hostility, but in the name of sovereignty.
It's true that this comes at a time when Senegal needed to secure its territory, because with terrorism and everything happening across the region, we were hoping, with the arrival of the new government, to still count on military partnerships with foreign forces, including France.
Senegal is looking for support to protect its borders. So when President Faye met Donald Trump, his hope was for military cooperation, although the U.S. president was more interested in finding another place to send illegal migrants to. The handover of the base in Senegal comes at a time when President Emmanuel Macron says French troops are needed back in Europe. As one power moves out, will somebody else step in, olive branch in hand, or will Demba keep marching alone? Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
Israeli forces killed at least 22 people in attacks on the Gaza Strip on Thursday, including 2 who died in a strike on a church the late Pope Francis used to regularly speak to. As the injured from the Holy Family Church poured into Al Ali Hospital in Gaza City, Father Gabriele Romanelli, an Argentine who used to update the late Pope about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, was lightly injured in the attack. Shadi Suhail was in the church during the strike.
We are displaced and currently taking shelter in the Latin Church, located in the Old City. This morning we were surprised by a strike on the church, a tank shell. Of course, there were elderly here, innocent civilians. My mother was wounded by shrapnel in her head. This attack is completely unjustified.
Pope Leo was deeply saddened by the loss of life and renewed his appeal for an immediate ceasefire, the Vatican said. The Israeli military said it was aware of reports of casualties and was reviewing the incident. 8 men tasked with protecting aid trucks were reported among the dead in airstrikes that were carried out while mediators continued ceasefire talks in Doha. A US official said this week the talks were going well, but 2 officials from the Palestinian militant group Hamas told Reuters there had been no breakthrough as the Israeli military continued to pummel Gaza.
Government is lowering the voting age here in the UK. It will allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in the next general election for the first time. The current age is 18. The Labour Party made the promise in its manifesto last year. 16-year-olds are already allowed to vote in elections for the devolved parliaments in Scotland and Wales. The pledge is part of a new elections bill, which will also expand voter ID options and move towards automatic registration. The government says the move will ensure that UK's democracy is fit for the 21st century. Our political correspondent Jack Fenwick has more.
How old should you have to be able to vote in a general election? Last year, Labour pledged to lower the age for all UK elections to 16. That had already happened for some votes in Scotland and Wales. And today, ministers have said they hope the change will be in place by the time of the next general election, expected in 4 years.
This is a seismic change in terms of how our democracy works and giving young people a say in the future of our politics and our country.
But it's not without controversy. The Liberal Democrats have long been in favour of the move, but Reform say you shouldn't be able to vote if you're not old enough to be a candidate, and the Conservatives aren't happy either.
Why does this government think a 16-year-old can vote, but not be allowed to buy a lottery ticket, an alcoholic drink, marry or go to war, or even stand in the elections they're voting in? Isn't the government's position on the age of majority just hopelessly confused?
So what do those affected think of the idea?
Even when you go to school, young people are so politically engaged, but I feel like many young people don't know what to do, or they feel like sometimes shunned a bit from democracy and decision making.
It's really important this is done in the right way, that education is brought in to make sure that young people feel interested in voting.
It's amazing. It's something that a lot of young people have wanted for a long time.
The change is part of a package of announcements about elections. The government has also said that UK-issued bank cards will be able to be used as ID for elections. Ministers are looking at plans for an automated voter registration scheme and loopholes that let foreign donors donate to UK political parties via shell companies will be closed. The government hopes that these reforms will encourage young people to play a more active role in society and improve public levels of trust in the political system. Expect much more parliamentary scrutiny on all of this when MPs return from their summer breaks in September.
U.S. retail sales rebounded more than expected in June, but the rise could be partly due to tariff-driven price increases. A report from the Commerce Department released Thursday showed retail sales increased 0.6% last month. That's half a percentage point more than economists polled by Reuters had forecast. It's also a big jump from the 0.9% drop in May's sales. But part of June's increase could be due to higher prices on goods exposed to tariffs rather than more goods being sold. Inflation data this week showed solid increases in June in the prices of tariff-sensitive goods like household furnishings and supplies, appliances, sporting goods, and toys. A senior economist at Wells Fargo told Reuters that, quote, the household sector still appears to be holding up, but a moderation in consumer spending appears underway. Core retail sales, which exclude automobiles, gasoline, building materials, and food services, increased 0.5% last month. Core retail sales correspond most closely with the consumer spending component of gross domestic product.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
Young Voices Shine Bright in 2025 Creative Youth Competition focused on essay writing.
Dr. Keith Rowley emphasizes the strengthened preparedness to volcanoes and other natural disasters, highlighting Nevis's volcanic risk.
Building a resilient future for water in St. Kitts and Nevis, the St. Kitts and Nevis Trans Water Project. Hotels across Antigua and Barbuda are on high alert for any eventuality this hurricane season. St. Lucia joins Venezuela in celebrating 214 years of independence. Internationally, former colonial ruler France hands over its last military bases to Senegal.
Thank you for listening.